Hi there. My name is Onyx, and welcome to my channel. You know, most of our listeners are not subscribers, so if you like my content, and before you do anything else, please do hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you. Should we pay people to be good? I keep coming back to that question because it feels oddly practical and oddly uncomfortable at the same time. There are already so many ways people get paid for things that don't feel like they help, or that even seem to make life harder for everyone else. Sometimes it looks like the loudest behavior, the most aggressive behavior, the most attention-seeking behavior, ends up being the thing that gets rewarded with money, with status, with opportunities. And then the quieter choices, the ones that make a day smoother, the ones that don't create a story, just disappear into the background. So when I ask, should we pay people to be good, part of me is really asking, what do we currently pay for without admitting it? Because we do reward people all the time, in small ways and big ways, through systems, through habits, through what we tolerate, through what we ignore, through what we celebrate. Paying people to be good sounds like a new idea, but it might just be a more honest version of what's already happening, only redirected. Still, the word good is slippery. Good according to who? Good in what situation? Good for how long? Good with what trade-offs? If someone is polite but stays silent when it matters, is that good or is it just easy? If someone is generous but only when they're being watched, does it count differently? If someone follows every rule in a system that isn't fair, what are we paying for exactly? So maybe the question isn't only should we pay people to be good, but also can good be defined in a way that doesn't flatten people? And I wonder what paying for goodness would do to the feeling of it. There's a difference between holding a door because you notice someone behind you, and holding a door because there's a point system, and a camera, and a little prize at the end. The action can look the same, but the inside of it changes. Maybe that matters or maybe it doesn't, depending on what problem is trying to be solved. Because sometimes the goal isn't purity, it's harm reduction. Sometimes a community just needs more steadiness, more patience, more basic respect, even if it's imperfect, even if it starts out a little forced, a little transactional. And that's where the idea starts to feel complicated in a useful way. If paying people to be good means paying for outcomes like returning shopping carts, or keeping shared spaces clean, or showing up on time, or de-escalating conflict, then it's almost like paying for maintenance, paying for social repair. It reframes goodness as labor, and maybe it is labor to stay kind when someone is rude, to stay honest when lying would be easier, to stay calm when everything feels tense. That effort can be invisible, but it's still effort. Then again, once money enters the room, it can shift the meaning. If someone is paid to be good and they stop being good, do we call it a failure of character or a contract that ended? If someone can't meet the standard, do they lose the payment and then fall further behind? The idea that sounds fair on paper can start building a new hierarchy between the people who are good enough and the people who aren't, and that can turn good into another gate, another score, another way to be sorted. So I keep hovering between two concerns. One is that it feels wrong when harmful behavior gets rewarded again and again because it captures attention, because it's profitable, because it's bold, because it doesn't hesitate. And the other is that it feels risky to turn moral life into an incentive program. Yet maybe the question is pointing at something simple. Maybe it's less about paying people to be good in some grand moral sense and more about paying people for the kinds of behavior that keep the world livable, like paying for care, paying for patience, paying for consistency, paying for restraint, not as a gold star, not as a moral judgment, but as recognition that these things hold everything up. Even now there are jobs that are basically paid goodness in a quiet way. People who listen for a living, people who clean what others leave behind, people who keep routines running, people who show up and keep showing up. They're not always praised, and they're not always paid well, but their work is a kind of daily ethics made practical. So maybe the question, should we pay people to be good, is also a question about value. What counts as valuable when it isn't flashy, when it doesn't scale, when it doesn't generate a spectacle? And what happens when the economic system pays more for disruption than for repair? Sometimes I imagine a world where the rewards lean towards steadiness, where it's easier to make a living by being decent and by being ruthless. Not a perfect world, not a saintly world, just one where the incentives stop pulling so hard in the opposite direction. But I also imagine someone gaming it, someone performing goodness, with the precision of a salesperson, saying the right words, doing the visible gestures, while staying unchanged underneath. And maybe that's inevitable in any system, which brings me back again to the quiet center of the question. Should we pay people to be good, or should we change what we already pay for, so goodness isn't at a disadvantage? Maybe it's the same thought from two different angles. Maybe paying people to be good is a blunt way of saying, it's time to stop rewarding the worst instincts and start making room for the best ones without asking people to suffer for it. I don't have a clean answer, and I'm not sure a clean answer exists, but I like sitting with the question because it reveals what feels off and what feels possible. If this question brings up something for you, a concern, a definition of good, a way it could work, or a reason it couldn't, leave a comment and add to the conversation, and I'll keep holding the question gently as something to return to when I notice what gets rewarded and what gets overlooked in ordinary life. Should we pay people to be good, or is the deeper task to notice what we've been paying for all along? That's about it from me. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you have any thoughts, please let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.